Imagine having techniques that ignore durability to where your physical strength and stuff doesn't matter because you can harm anybody because you can catch people off guard if their guard's down, for example, like Scarlet Witch and phase and defeat her that way. Powerhouses that are super top tier that you can almost kill like Nova, Kid Nova. You can tear him apart if you don't pull your hand out fast enough. You can avoid people's attacks with an intangibility, but then you can poke your arm in their chest, almost one-shotting them, like even powerhouses like Captain Marvel. That awkward moment when your intangibility works on mini Hulks and disrupt them that way to make them sleepy. This is not the real Hulks, of course. My bad. Am I going too fast? Just never forget that he was able to do this to Hercules, a literal deity. Oh man, Vision's crazy. Let's get it. This being on his vision, his intangibility can be adjusted to vibrate his molecules in between his, trying to merge with Ultron here, forming a union. Once he's united with Ultron, once in command, he will liberate all those infected. But of course, this didn't go as planned, and this is actually the reason why Hank Pym and Ultron ended up becoming a fused being, becoming one, Hank, Ultron, or whatever. Vision's actually technically the reason for this. Yeah, stuff never goes according to plan. We're going to talk a lot about Vision today, though. You know, in this case, you can kind of see him fused with this being going inside his body completely. This is cheating, just going inside somebody's body, then just going solid. But in this occasion, he's one of the rare people that can actually counter his intangibility. Yeah, there are beings that can actually counter his intangibility, but not many, I would say. You know what I mean? It usually works. Creatures. You probably remember seeing him in live action. His first appearance being Avengers Age of Ultron, the live action movie in 2015 that I absolutely loved. Vision. This being is also in the comics. Let's talk about him. We can get some more lore on Vision here. Vision, also known as Victor Shade, a human mind reborn in a series of artificial bodies. He would become one of the world's most powerful and sophisticated androids. Way back in 1939, when a brilliant young scientist was making radical breakthroughs in robotics, you see where this is going, he's an artificial human, partly via advanced technology he had developed using the resources of his former employer Victor, who at the time, they didn't know, secretly was the time-traveling villain Kang, you know, Kang the Conqueror. One of his earliest inventions, Grantley dubbed the Vision of Tomorrow, was an overtly mechanical man powered by solar energy. A solar gem microprocessor designed by Phineas collected solar energy and provided his Vision's rudimentary artificial intelligence. Just like every character, he's went through a lot of different adventures, been on Avengers, being a hero, different looks. There was even one point he had a synthetic disguise, married Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. Ended up getting his family to live his own American dream. Yeah, I know, that's crazy, right? This looks kind of creepy a little bit. And just like pretty much any other Marvel character, went through his fair share of evolutions, different adventures, power changes. But, oh yeah, speaking of powers, one could say he's not only strong, but one could say he's also versatile. Because his body is an artificial emulation of the human form, blending mostly concealed mechanical components with plastics and other synthetic materials designed to simulate the appearance and function of organic matter. His synthetic bones and tissues are far stronger and more durable than human counterparts, and he can lift a lot more weight. You already know he's super strong, which you're going to see a lot of in this video, but yeah, the guy can actually fight. Like in his handbook, it's even confirmed in his lore, right here. Trained in unarmed combat by Captain America, he is highly skilled in combat use of his own unique powers, so he's an actual fighter with all these broken abilities. He has the standard stuff like super strength, help lifting heavy stuff, along with other powers. One of the things he's probably known for is his intangibility to be able to walk through steel walls. He can control his own body and mass, become light enough to float. That's why he can fly. That's why he can float on air itself. One perk of changing his density is that he can change his density so much to where he can basically go invisible. They're like, where did he go? Everything within his costume also goes intangible with his phase shifting. Somebody please make this make sense. He says he can become partially intangible, subjugating the bothersome insects touching his body to disruptive shock, and they fall away temporarily paralyzed. That's Vision. He can increase or amp his physical strength by changing his density too, by concentrating and becoming unbelievably heavy. It's literally shown that he can get so heavy, it's as if he's a living vacuum, to the point where it's even narrated, his mass so incalculable, his weight, that the straining rocket is pulled downward by the mighty force called gravity. That's how dense he can make himself. On top of all this techie stuff, I mean, being able to get dense and stuff, he makes improvements to his own bodies. Like say if he repairs him, say if he gets damaged, he repairs himself, he might make himself better than he was before he got injured in the first place. The guy can literally turn into his own aircraft and fly at Mach 35. He's immune to hypnosis, it seems. He can do some shadow clone jutsu type stuff and pretty much clone himself like into a whole mob of different robots. Like, yo, this comes in handy, making a whole bunch of robots just at will. Like, he can make his own army, one could say. He's like a walking legion. His own army of visions looking like tribal men, like his own little army that looks tribal and stuff. And when we're talking about energy projection, you see that BS above his head? He can make blinding flashes of solar energy to hurt your eyes, but then straight up blast you with blunt power, something I'm going to go back to later on in this video. One way you can look at on why he can shoot solar blasts that can blind people is because he's powered by solar energy. It's stated here, he's a synthetic human who absorbs solar rays through a tear-shaped jewel in his forehead. Solar sponge. Another thing that comes in handy is that when it comes to people, he can technically absorb excess energy from people. If he can't rely on solar radiation or solar energy, he can kind of eat food like us humans, how we restore our energy, and get energy that way by converting mass into energy. And he has a whole bunch of extra perks for being an android artificial human type character, like enhanced hearing. He possesses a holographic disguise, so he can kind of look normal, Both his face and voice can change. He was able to do this because he designed a synthetic mask because of his intelligence. It's attuned to his android body. Bruh is like Cyborg. Bruh can record everything he sees using his eyes. If he wants to show you something, he can literally holographically display it so you can see what he's talking about. Like, they literally break down how his body works. Like, it says here, his synthezoid construction is entirely artificial, but at the same time uncannily human. For example, any other machine would have been totaled by the damage he suffered. But each of Vision's cells is microscopically encoded with his entire schematics, not like human DNA. Like, this is great, for example, if he loses like half his components, he has like all his junk stored microscopically. Even if he loses a big chunk of his body, he won't lose a big chunk of his being, if that makes sense. Say if he loses half his brain, right, and he has to repair himself, like he has to get repaired, the information that he had in this section of his brain isn't lost when he recovers, if that makes sense, because it was stored in different parts, microscopically in different parts of his cell. Like, yeah, it's that deep. Like, one can say he can like go in and hack technology. Like, for example, in this occasion, these beings are like power got nullified or whatever. He can go inside the system and disable the power nullifying shackles, for example, like go in the system because computer wide stuff and break free that way. Like, one can say hack his way out. When I say hacking, I mean hacking type stuff. He's the guy to call when he wants to interface with Stark's systems, you know, his armor. He can override the emergency protocol and dismantle the armor itself. He's the guy you go to if you want him to make you a beast and fun video game to play in. One can say a mixture of his hacking with his intelligence is a deadly combo, being able to reverse engineer stuff from super smart beings, for example, like high evolutionary. Yeah, he's very sophisticated. The guy can even heal himself. One could say regenerate. So Vision isn't just your run-of-the-mill robot type character. I mean, he's technically almost immortal like the gods, one can say. I mean, it makes sense. He's not fully human. And you know there's a lot of mind manipulative type characters. Well, his artificialness kind of helps him out with that, saying it's virtually impossible to take over his mind with mental takeover. You know, he doesn't need to sleep because, yeah. Don't be microscopically shrunk and go down into his system because his body might think you're a germ or some crap. And his body can get kind of dangerous on the inside. This is kind of cool. You get to see the insides of him being shrunk down, how dangerous it will be. But let's dive deep into Vision. His strength and his density shifting is a main component on what makes him strong. So a lot of these scans, I might not mention him doing density shifting, but one could say he could be doing it. I just might not mention it every time, like him slowing down the fall, for example, when it comes to a giant man type character like Goliath falling. He can make himself so heavy to where even if giant people try to lift him up, they can't lift him up. It's no use. Large pieces of debris, you can see him sling. Metal, we can actually see him tear. There's been plenty of times where they had to deal with spaceships. You can see the spaceships. He can use his hands to rip it like this, along with Thor helping him out. He helped slow down this vehicle, or one can say jet, stopped it from skidding with sheer strength. His strength and density allow him to get as strong as tungsten steel, can make his density and one can say strength so much that he can be the mass of 10 times the density of depleted uranium. If we're talking about weight, he can shift into 90 tons. It's stuff like this that proves that he's way strong with his size shows. Even though if your fist is way bigger than him, he still has the strength to stop your attack with one arm like he did with Goliath here. Giant type characters or just huge characters by default are strong just because they're so big. But check this out. Even though Vision's smaller, if you try to punch Vision and he's too dense, you actually hurt your hand. Along with other strong beings, he lifts something that looks like it could weigh at least over 100 tons. Along with somebody else over here, he helps lift it. He does hold his own weight. This gives you a testament of Vision's strength. Not only is he in the scan with a whole bunch of powerhouses, not only is he not dead weight, but this thing they was having to catch to break the fall of it had to weigh a couple millions of tons, and they had to work together to throw it away. The crumbling Sky Island seems to fold up around. Its fragments fused and compacted by force beyond imagining until its enormous mass has been compressed into a small, incredible dense sphere. If it would have landed, it would shake Manhattan like a major earthquake. So, of course, he did have help here, but this can kind of give you a bare minimum on his power. If he did 1/4 this way, if we assume all of them did their fair share of contributing, if we assume this is just 1 million, even though they said millions, implying more than 1 million, but let's assume 1 million. So if we assume he didn't lift the whole million because they divided it up into 4 different beings, we can at least assume if he did his fair share, that would be a bare minimum of 250,000 tons. That's like him having the strength to hold up a couple buildings. He can increase his density so much to where he can literally sink a ship just by standing on it, by getting super duper heavy, becoming countless tons, his body harder than the purest diamond. His strength too has grown in proportion. Like, yeah, I don't take these little tier things as Bible, but this is like a little grid Marvel made back in the day to give you somewhat of some writer intent on where the powerhouses rank, one could say. Like, for example, they have the super heavyweights like Hulk, Thor, blah, 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 Hercules, Wonder Man as the super heavyweights. But then the tier right under it, the heavyweights that got Vision. When it comes to strength, it says at maximum density, my strength is most devastating. He's in the same class, apparently, with strength with beings like Namor, the Thing back in the day, Doc Samson, somebody that's as strong as a calm Hulk. You know, that can give you some writer intent on where the writers want him to be when it comes to the power hierarchy, when it comes to raw strength. His strength mainly coming from his density. One can say that 250,000 tons crap is like not even close to scratching the surface, because when you see him fight beings that are like Silver Surfer level, we already know how overpowered Silver Surfer is, for example. He even stated himself that his strength is comparable to his own. You got occasions like this with Wonder Man. This really gives you an idea of his strength. You can literally see them grappling. And the being he's grappling, known as Wonder Man, is apparently supposed to be in a higher strength heavyweight class tier than himself. So for him to even be able to hang it in there, it kind of gives you some writing intent and lore where the writers want him to be. He's definitely a heavy hitter based on these scans. This should be no shocker. We've seen characters like Wonder Man lift 50,000 tons. Vision matching Wonder Man is impressive because Wonder Man is a being that one could say helped an island from toppling over with brute strength. Yeah, an entire island. How hard does his fist hit if he's already this strong physically? He has the punching power to shatter plexiglass because he can make his fist as hard as diamonds. Seen his punches bust up a robot. Huge sentinels. We see him punch through. Sentinels themselves can get pretty big compared to buildings, and they can get pretty solid and dense. But his hits can still devastate big sentinels. Literally by Doombot. And look what his ground does when he decides to punch the ground. We've seen him punch through walls of a skyscraper with his punching power. He can become solid enough to where Quicksilver and Captain America are falling. You see what it does to the ground. He's still able to catch him. He's strong enough to hit you or fly you through a building to do massive damage. Notice his energy blast disarms these guys. A lot of ice he melts. Debris he can blast away and turn it into nothing. Go to sleep, Medusa. Arm in your chest, Black Panther. He can hit a being with blast power that can melt an armored tank. I'd say multiple tanks he can melt apart or blow away, honestly, with his laser vision or blast power. It's confirmed that he can punch hard enough to shake the entirety of Avengers Mansion with his punching, proving his punches can shake buildings, obviously. Like, he doesn't even have to necessarily throw a punch. He can make his strikes harder just from getting heavier and going through multiple floors of a building like he does here. He can increase his mass 100-fold to allow him to kick or strike even harder to burst up the ground. When he really wants to ramp up his striking power, like in this occasion you can see here, it's stated, I have to increase my mass and density to the ultimate, render my body as hard as the purest diamond, and fall to produce the most destructive power. He used being high in the air as an advantage too. He created so much impact by increasing his density, his striking power, it was like a meteor. It was stated hundreds of miles away, the government seismic station Vermont was able to sense it, even panic. They thought it was a hydrogen bomb in New York City, implying this being can hit like a nuclear bomb, basically. Imagine having an attack that hits so hard to where if you're in a city like this, right? Places this far away can feel it. That's a lot of raw energy being produced. Okay, so you know how earlier I already pretty much confirmed that the writers have some sort of writing intent when it comes to Vision's power level compared to the heavier hitters, right? Here with Wonder Man and Thor, for example. Someone that's also a powerhouse, the being that has the power cosmic under his control, Silver Surfer, even says this about Vision, saying his power is nearly comparable to his own. We already seen him grapple with Wonder Man, but what about punch? And we've seen him punch Wonder Man with his strength. I mean, yeah, in these occasions, he's just sending him flying. This is not like a super big deal or anything, but yeah, the writer intent kind of adds up with these feats of him sending him flying. If we were to take these occasions with Wonder Man seriously, we can kind of get an idea of how strong Vision has to even be somewhere in his strength level. Don't forget, we've seen Wonder Man punch powerhouses like Hyperion so hard to where they can make the entire planetoid tremble. And there's implications that Vision is on this level as well. Wouldn't that mean by default, wouldn't that mean Vision can make entire planetoids, like maybe say a moon could tremble with his punches? Having enough power to tremble the entire planet, meaning he can make stuff or planets tremble that are way bigger than the moon. If he can make something like this tremble, one could say by default, Vision should be able to punch apart the moon. And if you've been following my page long enough, you should know planet busting as a Marvel powerhouse is literally just the tip of the iceberg. It's almost like the moment you consider a Marvel powerhouse, you're automatically a planet buster by default because that's so low end compared to what they can do in their higher ends of feats. So Vision's a heavy hitter. And it doesn't stop here. Powerhouses like Little Nova, we've seen him punch. Like a great example will be this occasion with Carol, for example, punching something, saying she nearly broke her wrist punching this thing. Carol's another powerhouse. Miss Marvel. One could say this can give you some more narrative on Vision. This thing that almost broke Miss Marvel's wrist, we see Vision hit it and mess up his armor. A lot of people know Vision from Ultron. We've seen Vision, of course, getting a slugfest with Ultron, somebody that had him working under him for a while. One could say getting an advantage over him in a fist fight. And strength throwing stuff at him at the same time, getting an advantage over him that way. I mean, I technically already showed this, but in this occasion, Vision had one arm. He still kind of had him on the ropes here, slamming him. This is like a really overpowered Ultron, if I might add. You know, in one of their many fights, Vision having conflicts with him, saying he's nothing like him. He doesn't want to be anything like Ultron. He's one of those characters where he's kind of hacksy. He doesn't really need to be the most durable character because, I mean, why does he need to be durable if he can just go intangible to where your attacks don't hit him, and then he can hit beings like a female Thor ridiculously hard. Somebody we know that's a planet buster with ease. And we see him doing this too in raw power and strength. Hello, unworthy Thor, who's still ridiculously strong. We've seen him slam unworthy Thor. Vision. There's no way you can disrespect this. Okay, you already know about the Cosmic being known as the Phoenix Force, right? Like, I'm not saying he's anywhere near the Phoenix Force, but the fact that one of the teammates, like War Machine, for example, was being entangled by the Phoenix Force, for example, Vision is mighty enough to help get somebody free from the Phoenix Force, lets you know that he has to be a heavy hitter, or just being blasted by the Phoenix Force in general and still be able to move afterwards. Everybody teaming up on Phoenix Force Namor. Of course, Visions was a helpful aid and helped do the combo attack on Phoenix Force Namor. Notice how there was other powerhouses like Red Hulk and stuff to help out to show that, yeah, the heavy hitters were teaming up. So they're implying he's a heavy hitter too if he can be a helpful aid in teaming up. So I think all this stuff put in mind, it's fair to say he's way past planet shattering levels since he's a powerhouse in Marvel. That's just like a default at this point. He's one of those characters where he can take a lot of damage too. He doesn't have to be hit, but his body can withstand a lot of stuff like even bullets. Even when Kandins try to shoot him, it doesn't really freaking work. Bye-bye swords. Like, look, they even stated here, I'm in the class only Thor can touch. Despite them stating this, they literally get in a fist fight, saying his bare fist pack almost as much wallop as Thor's hammer. If this doesn't give you respect, I don't know what does. Wonder Man, we got respect for him, right? A guy that can tremble planetoids, and I got a video about it on the channel. He can do way worse than just trembling planetoids. Look what he does when he punches Vision, when he makes his body super hard, density-wise. Vision can increase his durability without even having to phase to hurt Wonder Man's hand. You see him blasting Wonder Man, and he's crying out in agony. Narration says he still has power enough to defeat Wonder Man. There's clear right intent. They want them to be similar in levels of power. You can see him literally blasting while somebody's blasting him, and he's eating the attack while also countering with his energy blast. Even characters like Hyperion bounce off of him with his durability. He can easily handle Hyperion's attacks. Even if you want to say characters like Hyperion have the physical strength advantage, that's cool and all, but does his physical strength even matter when he can phase into his body and win that way? Powerhouse. There was like these several different Hulk beings. He can get super dense to where his body can withstand multiple hits and then just go intangible, of course. She-Hulk tier beings, his body can resist their attacks by making his density 1,000 times stronger than normal. A mixture of reaction time to be able to phase in time to get out of Captain America and Iron Man's way. When they try to hit him, he just evades them. On some team busting type status, you see Nova try to pull up. He reacts to him with his arm. When beings throw Mjolnir at him, he's able to avoid it by phasing in time, evading missiles. I mean, his ability to go intangible speaks for itself. I mean, it's not really much to say. We've seen him phase through all kind of stuff, even disintegration rays, not even Human Torch's flames can do much. Your energy constructs go right through him. Lasers and all that stuff is pointless. Or acid, all that stuff will go right through him when he's in this intangible mode. It's funny because his intangibility works on beings that are kind of, one could say, kind of intangible too. Like Wonder Man, who can go into his ionic form. He's ionic energy. Very hexy type battle type stuff. So it's almost like if you don't have no resistances to intangibility, or you don't have no resistance for him to be able to go into your body, he can kind of get a cheat win on you like this. Like knocking out Captain America, Namor, and Human Torch at the same time here. Beings like Cersei, he can just reach in their head like this and nearly kill them. Like, look at this. Like, yo, literally be flying in people. He can literally threaten you and say, make one more step or I'll solidify my finger and stop all the blood flow in Crystal's lovely brain. Yo, couldn't Vision just technically reach in your stomach and put food in your stomach? Can just pull up to machinery and disrupt it just by putting his hand through machinery? Not with just taking stuff, with just any type of equipment, passing through matter and re-solidifying to disrupt that matter's molecules, utterly destroying it. So disrupting the molecules of objects he basically can do by just going intangible, then go solid, and then, you know, back and forth to destabilize it. A very strong powerhouse like Annihilus, for example, it even works on him. Phasing works on him. He doesn't need super strength when you can do stuff like this. Simply phasing through beings' head and ending it. He can make himself too solid to where if you try to blow him away, you can't move him because he's too heavy in that spot. And then you get murked. That's simple. Like, this dude's a cheat code. I mean, he has all this power, but did I mention he has blast power? One could say energy projection. You can see him do this to Monica Rambeau. He can release energy beams. We've seen his beams clash with Iron Man, somebody that's probably underrated and you think he's not a powerhouse. Oh man, check out my Iron Man videos and check out them suits and their power. We've even seen his blast power get the overhand over characters like Iron Man and making him freaking drowsy. Female Thor, somebody we know that's already a powerhouse and is way past planet shattering level. We've seen him blast her back. Stone versions of Black Knight. Yeah, don't try to punch Vision. You will regret it. You're going to end up breaking up your own body pieces. Vision's too durable and dense when he wants to be. But for the most part, everybody, that's just about going to do it. There's nothing more else to say. You know, he's a powerhouse. There's clear writer intent. He might not have the most flashy feats of shaking the whole universe or cosmos or nothing, but due to the fact he's a powerhouse, he should be able to do similar or somewhere in the ballpark of some of the powerhouses. Heck, he's one of those characters that doesn't even need to be super strong like the powerhouses because he can just phase into their heart and kill them that way, you know. But what do you guys think? Do you respect Vision? But before I get going, gotta say quick thanks to the donators real quick. Helps out a lot. Respect Vision, though. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.